if elected, what are you hoping to bring to New Yorkers?
The main thing I'm hoping to bring to New Yorkers is an income increase of $1,000 a month. Cornerstone of our platform is universal basic income on top of universal rent control, a universal health care plan, a Green New Deal, et cetera. But again, our main bring is we want to bring new capital, new property into our neighborhoods so that people have a fighting chance to change their lives.
So basically a lot of what we hear from Andrew Yang as well, is that kind of where you've gotten a lot of the ideas for this?
I think it's actually the other way around. I was introduced to Andrew Yang by the president emeritus of the SEIU years ago to advise them on my thoughts around dividends specific to universal basic income and the like. I am extremely proud and excited for his run and how well he's done so far. I'm hearing good things out of Iowa this morning. But no, I started this journey about 15 years ago. I've spent my life in writing cybersecurity policy and community organizing on the side. Now we're finally at a time where our technological might has met our local activism, and I think that we have a real fighting chance to implement something like a UBI, not only here in New York City, but I'm talking to regulators in Milwaukee and Stockton, California, and Detroit, Michigan, and Newark, New Jersey. So it's a wave. It's a wave, and it's a very 21st century wave.
For those who might be critics of universal basic income,
Sure.
What has their pushback been to you thus far, and what is your response to that pushback?
I think the main pushback is just, it's a branding issue. People don't understand that it's a possibility. There's a faction of the population who looks at a basic income like welfare. And our specific method is, it's an equity stake. It's a dividend based on corporate productivity. So, and the way we get there is we're really recodifying people's personal data as property that they outright own, and so that any institution that uses that information as an input to their productivity, we're asking that they pay out a dividend to these individuals per that productivity. So again, the fix is all of your data is the most micro input to all corporate productivity. Corporations only make two things. They make products and services, but it's based on what they know of you and or their employees. It all comes down to an individual. So the ask is for a dividend based on the $7.2 or so trillion that we make every year here in this country, that it goes back out to individuals. And so we're asking for about $2.5 trillion. It's something that we can more than afford. And that's the work. It's just communicating to people that they're owed this, and this is not something for them to be given. And that's resonating really well in our district, yeah.
We've seen a lot of Democrats primary, a lot of old school establishment Democrats in particular districts. We've seen it with AOC here in New York City. You're going against Adriano S Biot, who has been in his district for a very, very long time. What made you decide you wanted to challenge him in this particular district?
Well, it was the makeup of the district, so I think we're still the majority. So he's been a state legislator in the Assembly and the Senate for a long time, 25 plus years, but he's only been in the U.S. Congress for 4 years. We think he's a conservative. He helped build the IDC, Republican caucusing branch of the state Senate. He's done also a lot of things that show he's a relic with regards to progressivism. He's endorsed a bunch of homophobic and racist even policies, not just here in the United States, but also in his home country, the Dominican Republic. So he won his election with about 30% of the vote. 70% of the voters in our district would likely never vote for him and have never. And so the work is to communicate them a new way forward and build a coalition between Harlem, the Heights. We also have Kingsbridges in our district, Inwood, across the normal racial and political factions that exist there, but also with all the new people who live there. So our work is really just to build a coalition and talk about how we exist in the 2020s, not who has right to the throne based on what they've been doing.
I want to go back to cybersecurity, such a critical point of conversation, whether it's with the trade war, just globally in general. Would you say there are still a lot of misconceptions domestically about our maybe relationship with China and other players in the cybersecurity space?
Sure. I mean, so my biggest fear is really, as someone on the national political stage, and a lot of my work has been in international cyber policy in general, my biggest fear is the way China is using things, period. And I don't think that Democrats are talking about that enough. And we are, in a space where we're getting ready to be hacked over the course of this next calendar year, and a lot of false messaging is going to, filter through this place. And so I think the work has to be a progressive voice that is vigilant, specific to, I would say, the cold cyber war that we're in the middle of right now. I don't think that most people understand the context of the digitization of everything. And so we hope that a new wave of, hopefully, millennials are coming along. Just like your last guest, you know, I like Richie as well, who's running the 15th. We want to see more people who can talk about these issues start to communicate to the public. 'Cause that's really the job of the elected is, hey, this is what's happening. This is what you need to know.
Right.
And this is how we plan to fight it.
On top of all of that, you're the first black member of the LGBTQ community to run for Congress, which, by the way, very exciting thing to have.
Exciting,
How also, in addition to your platform and all the things that you talk about, how important is inclusivity to your campaign as well?
I mean, it's omni-important. I mean, even our workaround for an equity stake in the economic productivity, it's really an inclusion argument. And our inclusion is different than, say, the old diversity quota, I want to see you represented. It's saying, I'm going to, instead of talking about equality, give you an equity stake. I'm going to give you a piece of the table and try to incentivize you to be a good actor at the table per your equity stake. And so whether it's the people who are on our campaign or the people that we're engaging in the district, we have a extremely diverse district. I mean, it's not just, you know, black and white, and it's not just, you know, I think a lot of people talk about our Latino faction, but it's a real missed opportunity to talk about the Latino population as a monolith. There are about 12 different, you know, folks who wave different flags and don't all agree about everything politically.
40% of the district is Latino. It's a pretty big.
Exactly. And so there are a bunch of different factions there, and they participate in a much different way. So when we're talking about them and we're talking about the LGBT community, our real benefit has been able to talk to the LGBT community first and help them filter through their different cultural backgrounds. And our coalition has been, at its core, a coalition of queer and LGBT activists.